Greetings everyone, welcome to my review of Free Comic Book Day 2010. This is Sonic's 4th Free Comic Book Day issue, and the second to have an original story. 2008's free issue was a reprint of issue number 1 with an updated cover, and the 2009 free issue was just a collection of data files covering basic information about Sonic's comic world up until about issue 198. This issue takes place after a major story arc in the main comics called the Iron Dominion, in which Eggman was temporarily replaced as the main villain due to him losing his marbles. The replacement villain, the Iron Queen, was eventually defeated. During the climactic event, Eggman regained enough mental faculties to escape and hide in the only remaining building in his ruined city, the Egg Dome. Since then, Sonic's been searching all over the Egg Dome for any signs of the Doctor, which brings us to today's issue. Sonic spots the Egg Dome in the distance and navigates his way through the ruined city towards it. Sonic wonders why Eggman placed all his attention to this one building before his mind snapped. Set this nugget aside for a future review. Eggman sees Sonic coming on a monitor and begins monologuing that Sonic will find nothing again, and that Dr. Eggman will determine his own return to harass the Hedgehog. Then Snively breaks the mood by calling Eggman out on his monologuing. Wow, did the runt forget who he's talking to? Well, here's Eggman's response, yelling at Snively as usual. This time it's about why he's not working in the engine room. Thankfully for Snively, the work is ahead of schedule and he's taking a quick lunch break. Sonic enters the Egg Dome, unaware that a plant monstrosity has finally found him. Ah, geez, it's Audrey too. Feed me, Seymour! Running through the hallway, Sonic remembers recent events, including the fight that made Eggman snap, Monkey Kong appearing, and fighting the forces of the Iron Dominion. He comes across a dead end, but before doubling back, that plant thing corners him. The Cruzu Hybrid Hydra. Look at this thing. It has the heads of other robots, and it's huge. And the first thing this robotic plant does, goes up to Sonic and says, "Hey, how's it going? Boy, I'm sure glad to see you. That way, I won't miss my chance to kill you." And with that, the fight begins. Eggman's aghast at the sight of the plant, but Snively immediately recognizes it. He goes on to explain that the original Robotnik made it, presumably before his death, and that it was in the testing phases when Robotropolis got nuked. I assume it was kept in a hidden lab with the computer monitoring it or something. The Cruzu mentioned surviving the nuke to Sonic as well. It did so because one tiny root was deep underground, and from that root grew into the monstrosity we see now. What helped was that it incorporated pieces of old Badniks into itself, thus making it a super Badnik. Eggman, of course, is fascinated by all of this. Sonic's actually thrilled that he's finding what is essentially an amalgam of classic Badniks. For him, he sees Eggman's new robots as ho-hum, and the Dark Egg Legion has living squishy parts. But seeing and naming old Badnik parts really brings out Sonic's nostalgia of the old days. Unfortunately, those feelings have to go. As the hybrid said, it's a super Badnik, and super or not, what does Sonic do to all Badniks? Spin dashes them into pieces. However, the Cruzu hybrid reassembles itself and goes all out on Sonic, stating that if it can survive a nuke, then a silly little thing like a spin dash is not going to slow it down. Snively cheers on the hybrid while Eggman's working on something to take care of it. The guy has a master plan for Sonic after all, and he's not going to let some old bygone weapon kill him now. Snively's understandably upset. So as the Cruzu's about to finish off Sonic, Eggman's gold hummingbird stealthily jabs the plant, which causes it to freeze and explode. Sonic's naturally confused by this turn of events. Still, the experience has left the Hedgehog exhausted and he leaves. Smart move. Even if he found Eggman now, he's not in top form. On the way out, he declares to Eggman that he will return to find out his plan. Eggman starts monologuing to himself again, saying that when they truly meet again, it will be a memorable one. And to give something away a little early, he's not wrong. The issue serves two purposes. First, like the previous free comic book day issues, it's meant to either introduce new readers to the Sonic comic, or allow those that have dropped the book for some reason to see what's happening around this time. And like the 2007 issue, it's using an original story to do so. Though admittedly, this one kinda shoves the panels of Eggman breaking down and the Iron Dominion stuff in front of the reader's face. It's probably related to the nature of this comic being basically promotional material. It's saying, hey, here's what happened in the Sonic comics this past year. Go check it out. It's annoying, but at the same time, understandable. The second purpose is to establish the theme of nostalgia for both Sonic and longtime readers. Whether or not Ian planned it is up to interpretation, but bringing up memories of the old days made everyone realize how things have changed throughout the book. And I have to backtrack a bit. Those thoughts about the recent Iron Dominion arc, as shoved in as they were, ultimately feeds into Sonic's longing for the old days, at least how I see it. Well, in a way, his wish was granted thanks to the Crude Zoo Hybrid Hydra. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, you could consider this thing an amalgam of the past. First, based on appearance in Snively's comments, it looks like a modified version of the original Crude Zoo, the first threat Sonic and company faced when the series became ongoing. And like in that first issue, Sonic didn't directly defeat it. Both times, it was something related to water. In issue 1, it was a thunderstorm. In this issue, it was Eggman's gold hummingbird freezing it. In the case of the latter, it's because he wasn't going to let something the old Robotnik developed get in the way of a plan he came up with during his trip to Crazy Town. Back to the hybrid, the second and most important reason it's an amalgam of the past is because it's made up of classic Badnik parts, like the head of a Motobug or claws from a crab meat. Sure, the SWAT bots and Combots aren't technically Badniks because, they're not from the games, but they represent the classic foot soldiers Robotnik used in the early days, unlike now with Eggman using cybernetic Mobians. After much thought, I'm giving this issue an 8. The big problem, as I said earlier, was forcing the events of the Iron Dominion at the reader's face. But otherwise, it was a nice standalone story that gave a shout out to the past while hinting at things to come. James Fry does an okay job with the art, helping contribute to the dynamic between Sonic and the Crude Zoo, and the egocentric Eggman and the pragmatic Snively. As for its placement in the canon, wikis say that it takes place between issue 211 and 212. But personally, I think it takes place after 212, only due to the fact that it's implied that Tails was with Sonic all those previous times, and it's my personal opinion that Tails wasn't with him here because he was helping Dimitri at the moment. Anyway, Eggman will come out of hiding in a way that'll catch Sonic completely off guard, but that's a story for another time. Man, that Crude Zoo hybrid was an interesting obstacle for Sonic, but I'm sure we'll never see it again.